Hello, this is Kiki with Building Healthier Communities, and I'm really excited to have Jeremy is it Gunlock, or is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
And he's the communications director from Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. They're known as BPDD, if you can say that fast enough to get it out of your mouth. But I've been learning lots about, I gotta let one more person in. Um, I'm I've been learning tons about Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. So I asked Jeremy if he could come and just tell us everything we want to know, or at least get us started on that. So, because it sounds like an amazing resource. We're going to be posting four different videos that they put on together. And yeah, so go ahead and hopefully you can share your screen but go ahead and why don't you first introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about you, Jeremy, your
Yeah,
background.
definitely. Like he said, my name is Jeremy Gundlach. I'm the communications director for the Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. And I have been working for the board for a little over 10 years, so a little bit of time, and I've had the wonderful experience of seeing our board rotate, and this will be the third 5-year state plan that I have been on the board as they've created. And we'll get into that in a little bit
Okay.
on what that 5-year state plan means and kind of what that's all about. Um,
Okay. Great.
but I will share my screen real quick.
Alrighty.
All right. Everyone can see that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or just speak up. I'm very comfortable with this being conversational, and also if people just want to sit and listen, I'm totally fine with that also. Whatever is best for y'all.
Right.
Um,
So yeah, feel free to put some questions in the chat for those that are listening. And then once you're done, I'm sure I'll have some questions, but I'm excited to learn more than I've already been finding out. But so excited to share this with our members at Building Healthier Communities. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you again for reaching out. I love doing this. And so throughout this, I have lots of like text, and it's pretty simple presentation, but also pictures of our board and our staff throughout the years and folks from some of our projects. So this was taken several years ago at our board retreat. It's just a lovely picture of our board members and some of our staff, and always love sharing it. Great people. So very quickly, um, as a board or a DD council, Wisconsin, um, the way we define boards versus councils are a little bit different. And so if you go to most other states, they're known as the Developmental Disabilities Council. Um, and I guess that is a good place to start. So every state and territory has a DD council board, right? It looks a little bit different, but we're all charged with the same thing. So the DD councils came out of old federal legislation. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary of being an organization just a couple years ago. And so we've been around for a while, and along with the DD councils, the federal legislation also helped to create the Protection and Advocacy Organization, which is disability rights in Wisconsin, and the UCED, the University Center of Excellence on Developmental Disabilities, which in Wisconsin is the Wiseman Center. And so the three of us, we're partner agencies. We're all run different, and we have different charges through that legislation, but we work together to, try to create a more inclusive and just better overall place for people with disabilities and their family members to live. So I always like to start off with our mission statement, and that is the board is dedicated to increasing self-determination, independence, productivity, integration, and inclusion of people with developmental disabilities. Um, we truly believe that people with disabilities should be living in their communities, should be able to work, live, and live their lives in a way that makes them happy, just like everybody else should. And so that's really the driving force in everything that we do is wanting to keep people in their communities, keep people living at home, and making sure that if folks need supports, that those are available. So this is for any of the policy wonks that might be listening to this. This is where we sit in that legislation. So while the original legislation was passed in 1970 or early 70s, it was revised in 2000. And so this is just some of that language on where we fit. I always like to add it just in case folks are interested in the legal side of where we sit. And so after federal legislation, it took a couple years, and the state had to adopt us as a state agency. And so we, as the DD Council, are run as a state agency. Our partners at Disability Rights Wisconsin are a nonprofit, and then the USAID is run as part of the UW. All right. And so this is something that I already talked about. It's federally mandated. And so really what we're charged with is working on public policy and statewide advocacy. And so part of that advocacy is every state supports an organization that is focused on advocacy and run by people with disabilities. And so from state to state, territory to territory, that looks a little different. Here in Wisconsin, that organization is People First Wisconsin. Some of you may have heard of it. Their executive director is Cindy Bentley. She's very well known. She's wonderful. She's done so many cool, wonderful things for People First and just for people with disabilities in Wisconsin. I highly recommend if you have not heard of them to look them up and possibly get involved. Or if you know someone with a disability, they have chapters all over the state, not in all counties, but there's also a statewide chapter, and so they're a wonderful place to get connected with other folks with disabilities who care about advocacy. Um,
Jeremy, what did
yeah,
you say Cindy's last name is?
Bentley.
Bentley. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I'm happy to share
Maybe,
my contact info and hers and anyone else
sure.
that comes up. I'm happy to share that.
Definitely sounds like another organization that we should interview, right?
Yeah, yeah, they have a lot of cool stuff going on,
Okay,
especially since COVID. They've had a lot of cool grants and they've done a lot of work on peer mentoring and social isolation and things like that. So just another organization that I'd be happy to put you in touch with.
great.
Um,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so, along with our charge, is, the public policy side is right on the screen, identifying the most pressing needs of people with developmental disabilities, developing innovative and cost-effective ways to meet those needs, and then advocating for public policies that create systemic change. So, we're a statewide agency. We're located in Madison because the capital's here, and we do a lot of work educating elected officials on what are the issues that face people with disabilities and what are some of the ways that we have found or other states in our network or what are the possible solutions that people have tried or that people with disabilities would recommend. Um, so I always add this because I think it's a super important thing that's in legislation, but disability is a natural part of the human experience that does not diminish the right of people with developmental disabilities to live independently, to exert control and choice over their own lives, and to fully participate and contribute in their communities. I think it's a really powerful statement and something that, similar to our mission, it's really the driving force. Disability is, a lot of times a diagnosis. It does not mean that you should not be in your community. It does not mean that you should not be making choices in your life, regardless of guardianship status or any of these things. You should be able to contribute. And so I always talk about this because I think it's an important thing that should be at the forefront of all disability advocacy, policy, and just everything.
I love seeing this. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things where it's in law, right? Those are part of, civil rights. Disability is a protected class. You can't discriminate based on it. Um, and this is once again a slide that I always put in for anyone who really likes to get into the nitty-gritty of policy. But there is a federal definition on what a developmental disability is. We don't have to go through all of this. Um, but it just kind of goes through, what is considered a developmental disability versus, say, an intellectual disability. Those have slightly different legal definitions. And so while our charge is to advocate for people with developmental disabilities and to help organize so that people with developmental disabilities can advocate themselves, we believe in very similar to universal design. If you make the world accessible for everybody, it's easier for everybody. And so much of what we do affects not just people with developmental disabilities, but anyone with any sort of disability. Here, once again, the state's definition of developmental disabilities is a little bit different, but that is once again just for the policy wonks in the audience. Um, so this is a nice graphic showing the relationship between USEDs, DD councils, and the protection and advocacy groups. And so we are charged with public policy and advocacy, right? That doesn't mean that the USEDs and the protection and advocacy groups don't do that. They just have a little bit different of a charge from the federal government. And so the P&As are charged with monitoring and investigating conditions in facilities. So they do a lot of checks on group homes and all other sorts of places where folks with disabilities live that are funded through state dollars and things like that. Also providing legal representation. So Disability Rights Wisconsin has attorneys on staff and they will represent people based on a whole slew of things. And a lot of that is also dictated by their board and state plan. And the USEDs do a lot of wonderful work around, this provide interdisciplinary pre-service preparation. So at the USED, the Wiseman Center here, they have their LEND program. And so what that does is it takes students from lots of different disciplines and they bring them together and try to focus on, how does your degree and possible career field interact with people with disabilities and just kind of have that focus on it. It's a wonderful program, and it's just important, right? All these people going to
Yeah.
school and focusing on people with disabilities.
Yeah, that's a nice slide. I might have you share that with me separate or whatever. Maybe you could share your PowerPoint because I
Yeah,
think
of
that
course.
this is really interesting. And do you have contacts for
Mhm.
USEDs and also for the P&As in Wisconsin that I could get from you?
Yeah, 100%. I'm happy to just follow up with all that stuff. If you have a
Okay.
list, I will
Yes,
follow up with all of that.
I will.
Um,
I'm learning so much. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Good. I'm glad to hear that. And so kind of how this works, right, is the USEDs, they work, they do community trainings and they provide direct services, which is something that we don't do. But they also do a lot of research and evaluation of other research. And so they really have a wonderful supply of data and research, and that mixed with what the P&As find with systemic issues, monitoring facilities and programs, and also legal disputes that they're providing attorneys and representation for. All of that, because of our partnership, goes into our public policy work, right? It helps us to focus like, oh, this is new research that's coming out from the Wiseman Center, say on or early childhood development around autism or something. And we're also seeing that that plays into how people, as they age, grow into the community and live in places, right? And so all of these things just come together to help us um, advocate for better state public policies that we can help fix some of the gaps or things like that. Um, and so, oh, before we get into the board and our membership and what that's all about, we are a nonpartisan agency. So, disability issues are human issues. We are not, we're just not partisan. We work with everybody. We are educating people. We don't believe that these are partisan issues. And so, have a wonderful staff person who is our legislative liaison and public policy guru, I would say. And she does such a wonderful job of going in and not playing party politics. It's just this is what it is. You, as an elected official, I definitely have people with disabilities living in your district, and they are part of the people that you represent. And here are some issues that face people with disabilities. And so moving forward. But I did not say that off the get-go, and I wanted to make sure that that was
No, that's
included.
a really good point. Like with all the political stuff going on right now, it's like this is a nonpartisan organization representing people
Yep.
with developmental disabilities. So
Yep.
great.
And, we've been around for 50 years, and so
Yeah.
there's always political things going on, right? And we are always just here to say, well, at the end of the day, people with disabilities are here. They live in your communities, and we think that they should live the life that they want to lead, right?
Yes.
Um, so our board, while we are a small staff. We have a board of volunteers, people with disabilities, their family members, some service providers, but really it's mostly people with disabilities and their family members, and they're all appointed by the governor's office, so they have to apply. They're appointed for a 4-year term, and they have the ability to get reappointed for another 4-year term. So a lot of our board members do stay on for 8 years, and this is once again, it's kind of in the weeds on the specifics, but we have very specific rules on how many people with disabilities, how many family members need to be on the board, and so you can see a third must be people with developmental disabilities. A third must be parents of minor children or immediate relatives or guardians. So we have several siblings of people with disabilities, and the whole point of this is that the perspective should not be coming from providers or other people. Our board is led by people with disabilities and their family members, right? People who have that primary experience or are, involved, as a sibling, as a parent, something like that. And so we
That's
have,
that's that's really good to hear, Jeremy, because we talk about like boots on the ground, like
mhm,
sometimes public policy, the people that are developing public policy aren't they don't live the life. They don't understand fully. I mean, they have they're contributing and their heart's in the right place most
mhm.
likely. We assume this, but ultimately they shouldn't be the ones telling what needs to be done. We need to hear from the people that actually have disabilities or have a family member so living the life. So that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tom, did you have
Tom, do
something to
you have a
say?
question?
I don't think
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay, yeah. So along with this, we also have mandatory representation from other state agencies. And so we have a member, and these folks are just appointed by these agencies, and they change as people's jobs change and things. But we have a representative from the Department of Public Instruction. So if you're unaware, they are the state agency that provides guidance and does education for the state, right? That's their main focus. The Department of Workforce Development. They have a large area of just workforce development that they work on. But a part of that is the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, and there is a lot of focus on providing supports for people who are working with disabilities, things like that. Department of Health Services, um, they do so many things, but one of the things they do is um, their division of Medicaid services, right? So a lot of long-term care that folks with disabilities are eligible for to live in the community, uh, uh, all those things. And so having these people on our board help us to have a specific contact in those agencies to say, hey, we have a question about X, Y, or Z administrative ruling, or we want your data and perspective on these things because we're hearing all these things from people with disabilities, their family members, and we want to know, is this a systemic issue, right? And so the fact that we have these people on our board and it's a wonderful working partnership allows us to be just that much more informed and effective so that we can provide hard data and things like that alongside of more anecdotal stories and trends that we may see. Um, and then we also the UW system, so we have a Wiseman representative, and we also have a rep from the Disability Rights Wisconsin. Um, so. And then also a public provider, a private not-for-profit provider. So it is required that we have a provider, but it is, a singular person or two people, right? It is a small voice on the board, but it is good to have that perspective, someone who's providing services, for people with disabilities. Okay, so our 5-year state plan, which I can send you more info on, we are coming up on finalizing our state plan. So we have a couple listening sessions where we have a draft and we just want to hear from people. Does this sound like we have put together a 5-year state plan that is going to be focusing on the right things? And so I can also send you those links in case anyone wants to attend those. But really this is our driving force. Our 5-year state plan, it not only dictates our budget, but our programs and our overall focus for the next 5 years, right? And so it takes a lot of work. Our board members do so much to really go out, not only in their own life, but then where else are they in the state, what is their community feeling? And we gather all that info and really try to nail down going forward for the next 5 years, what are going to be the biggest issues that face people with developmental disabilities? And so I can't stress it enough. This is what we do. Why, or some of our projects will kind of always be around, right? We have some, and I have some of our projects listed, especially the ones that between state plans are pretty much always going to be there. But this plan really will shape our work for the next 5 years. And so if something were to come up, there are fancy ways to amend this and whatnot. But for the most part, this is just our roadmap of we've heard from people around the state, we've done the research, and we are going to be working on XYZ, right? I don't have the plan, the draft plan in front of me, but in the past we've had employment be something that our board and the community and the state at large have wanted us to really focus on employment. Long-term care services, right? Like all these things that are issues, but with so many issues in the world, you do have to focus on things if you want to make any concrete change. And so we are this will be finalized this fall and we'll submit it. And then in 2027, we start our new state plan. And so, like I said, we've been doing work over the last year or so, putting this together, and we have a pretty good draft put up. And so part of our requirements with that is we send it out for public comment. We have surveys people can take. We have two webinar style listening sessions, and it's really just our staff and some of our board members, and we present it, and then we just want to hear feedback on, we've listened, we've done all this work. Does this seem like it's good? Is there something we're missing? And so excited for that because it's always a wonderful kind of end to all the planning, and we can, make changes if need be. But then it's kind of that, finishing a long project and then getting started to the real work. So that is coming up this year. So. Things we can't do: protest politics, lawsuits, direct services, and lobbying, right? So a lot of these probably make sense, right? We are not organizing protests. We're a nonpartisan agency. We're not doing any of those sorts of things. Lawsuits, that's why Disability Rights Wisconsin is one of our partner agencies, is that is where they come into place. There's also lots of conflicts of interest. We're a state agency, and if anything were to ever come up, right, it would be the state suing itself. And I don't have concrete examples of any of that, but it's just legally, that's why it's separated between us and, let's say, disability rights with lawsuits. Direct services, we do lots of education, advocacy, trainings, all of those things, but we are not here to provide direct services like transportation or have our board or staff, do daily cares or anything like that. And so that is just, one of the things we're not allowed to do. And then lobbying. And so this is interesting. There is a fine line on lobbying, but we do not have registered lobbying, like a person who's a lobbyist. And so really everything we do is it's based in education, right? So while we are there saying this is bad legislation, or this is a good idea, please sign on to this, right? This is good. We are not directly lobbying for any particular interest, and that is a wonderful thing. It means that our goals are kept very, that's sacred to the point of it, right? It's for people with disabilities to live their best life. It's not for the benefit of anything other than that. So this is a very brief overview of our 5-year state plan that we are coming up on the end of, just to give you a little bit of idea of kind of some of the things that are in the state plan. Uh, More people with IDD will have the supports they need to live the life they want. More families of color with young children with disabilities will use the programs they need. Improve the lives of people with disabilities in Wisconsin by working with legislators, right? And so they're very, this is, like I said, it's the short kind of snapshot of our overall goals and then those objectives. The full state plan has much more direct, like, we will be doing this by, this program, and that is how, because we have to report on all of this. It isn't just we can say we've done these things. We have to show, like, we've done these projects. We've been in communities, we've done all these things. So I always put this in because I talk a lot about what this 5-year state plan is, and this kind of gives it a little bit of a concrete basis going forward for folks. Um, this is just our second goal and objective. Our last 5-year state plan, the making choices, more social connections, and feeling less lonely. That was a very big part of it, was people being in their communities, but also looking at what does it mean to be in your community and have that be a meaningful connection to your community, right? Okay, so a little bit about some of our projects. I have some slides, but I may just stay on this for a while. And I won't go over all of these because there's quite a few of them. But things like our partners in policy making, it's a most of the stuff that we do is completely free as far as trainings and things like that. But it's a 6 session training on how do you, as a constituent, get involved with policy making, right? You maybe didn't go to school for this, it's maybe not something you've done, but as someone with a disability, as someone who's a family member, you've come in contact probably with more state programs and services and supports than most people. And so how do you take that story? How do you take your experiences and use that to educate your elected officials? It's a wonderful program. I went through it in 2017. And it's just great. There's people from all over the state that come together, and I want to say at this point we have over 300 or 400 partners grads in the state. And so it really helps to just bring leaders across the state to help connect other people to resources and to get people motivated to, make sure that people with disabilities are included in public policy. Um, so yeah, it's a wonderful program. It's going currently, and their last session is in a couple weeks here, I want to say. Um, but it's something that runs every year because no matter our state plan, it's a huge part of what we do. It's part of our
Right.
advocacy work. It's part of our public policy work. And so this is an example of something that continues through state plans.
I've
Um,
heard of
yeah.
this. I've heard of this program, but I didn't even know who it was through. But I've known a couple of clients that I've worked with over the years that have done it, and it's really powerful, and they really learn a lot. And it's great. Don't feel like you have to rush through. I mean, it's really great to learn about all these programs. So feel free to tell us about each little bullet.
Okay, yeah, 100%. Our self-determination conference, it's one of our largest events. It's in the Dells every year. And it's the whole point, right? Self-determination, knowing kind of what you want in your life and going for it. And so really the focus of the conference is learning about services, learning about supports, learning about your rights, and how do you use that to live the life you want to live, right? Sure, maybe you have a job, right? But what services allow you to get to that job and keep that job, and what are you, finding meaning in your life, right? Through work, through extracurriculars, really just anything. Um, I'm a little biased because it's our conference, but I think it's the best conference in the state. It's a lot of fun. It's a wonderful community. There's probably 600 people that go every year, and all the sessions are presented or co-presented by people with disabilities. So once again, it's not people saying this is what people with disabilities should be doing. We know best. It's individuals saying, this is how I use supports. This is what I want to do with my life. Here's my story. Here's what I've done. And I think that's just such a cool thing and something that, not that other conferences don't do that or anything, but it's
Sure.
really the driving point.
And who all goes to that, Jeremy? Like I'm thinking as the manager, navigator of building healthier communities, like I might learn a lot to share with
Yeah.
other people. So you don't have to have a disability to go.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It's open. We have
Okay.
folks from state agencies that go.
Okay.
We have providers that go, people with disabilities, family members, really anybody who's at all involved in the lives of someone with a disability is welcome to come to this conference. It's wonderful if you want to get connected to the overall community, but also just like the amount of information that's available is pretty outstanding. And so that is in October every year. And once again, I'm happy to share more about some of this stuff on the other end of this presentation, and we'll make sure
Okay,
everyone is
thanks.
connected to those things. Yeah. Um, So our Sparks mini grants, this one is a little bit up in the air right now. So this is a program, and the idea of Sparks, right, is we want to spark an idea or something, right? And so these mini grants are usually between $500 and $5,000, so it's not a huge amount of money, but the idea is to give technical assistance and a small amount of funds to a group of people. Doesn't mean that you have to have like a nonprofit or something, just a group of people who have an idea to make their community more inclusive. And so we specifically have it be kind of open like that because it allows for so many cool things. So in the past, we've seen people use this technical assistance and these small amounts of money to work with their city to fundraise and get the city to buy in to update an old park and make it more accessible, right? And then uh, in Oshkosh, probably 10 years ago, I want to say they did this, and it really because they got so involved with the city then was like, oh, this is so important, and we've seen more people use this park. It's good for the city. And so, right, it's sparking that idea of inclusion throughout the area. We had a very cool one in Wausau several years ago, and they wanted to show city officials and the community how hard transportation is for people with disabilities. And so they had I believe the mayor participated at the time, and it was, for a month don't drive, you're only using public transportation and see how well you can get around town and live your life as a way to get the city to be like, oh, we do need to allocate more money to transportation. We need to maybe change the way we do things. It was very cool. Like I said, because they focused on city officials doing this, they did more also, but that's kind of the fun thing that really, was the spark for the city to kind of look at things. Um, like I said, this one's a little bit in limbo right now because our funding comes federally. We have been a little uncertain of that, and so in an attempt to provide things that to keep us going and to continue doing a lot of the work that we do. Over the last year or so, we haven't been doing a lot of grants. And so we're working with our board to see is this something that we want to put money back into with our new 5-year state plan, or is there a way that we can still provide some of this without putting money with it? So kind of a to be continued. We'll know more in the coming months, but we're still open to doing this and hoping to do it in the future. Um, Supported decision making. This is one that we still do lots of trainings about. I know you had brought up that you were going to share our future planning webinar series, and that's
Yes.
something that we do. But really, this was a project with a lot of focus. Because we did not have a legal structure in the state for a supported decision-making agreement, which, I don't like it. A lot of people say it's an alternative to guardianship, but you can use it with guardianship. If you're under guardianship, you can still have a supported decision-making agreement. And really, the overall idea is there's no transfer of rights. It's just an agreement between you and support people to say, this person is going to support me on healthcare or on finance or with my education or whatever you need in your life. And it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. I want to say we were the fourth state in the nation to pass this legislation. And so it's a very cool thing, but like I said, we do a lot of work around it, but the biggest part of it was getting that it passed into law, and that happened probably about 10 years ago. And so we're still constantly doing trainings and getting the word out and making sure people know about it. But that's a a little bit of a success story, right? That was something that we were able to say, this is something that we've seen, it's an idea, it helps people with disabilities, and then we were able to successfully advocate for it to become a law in the state. So really that is like the perfect example of how we are supposed to work as an organization, right? We learn about something, we see how it works in other places, we try to replicate it, and then hopefully, make sure that it's written into law, right? Um,
That's
so
very cool. That's really awesome.
it's truly wonderful, and I know anecdotally, right? I know somebody who was under guardianship and petitioned the court and had it successfully, got her rights back. And a big part of them saying like, yeah, we think you can do this, you should have your rights, was because she was like, well, I have the support decision making agreement, right? And so it's very rare for courts to go back on a guardianship and those transfer of rights. And so very cool stuff to see, this was something that came about and just seeing the effects of it on individual people throughout time afterwards is very cool. I'm uh, very proud that we were able to be kind of on the cutting edge in the country for that. Um, Partners with business, this is something that um, we change it a little bit because we wanted to focus on not just businesses, but service providers and lots of different things. But the idea is for businesses and places to get trained on supporting people with disabilities to ease the amount of state resources like job coaches and things like that, right? If our businesses are trained and know that supporting someone with a disability makes good sense as a business, as a service provider, as a school, right? Whoever it is, um, and easing up some of the state and federal dollars that go towards some of those supports. Not that those supports are bad, but also there's something to be said about businesses having more of a focus on hiring people with disabilities because they're somebody who works. They can provide something rather than, coming in and needing a support person, right? It just makes sense for everybody. And so that's a very brief, there's a lot more that goes into it, but it's a very cool program. And we have, I believe we just opened applications this month for those. And there is, I want to say, once again, a small amount of money and some technical assistance for organizations or businesses that apply for that and get it.
Yeah, you could probably talk about each of these programs for an hour.
Yeah, and that's
Basically.
what I was saying. I'm happy to go through all of
Yeah.
them, but I
Yeah.
won't go
Yeah.
into
Just
like
teaching us a little bit about each one. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. The take your legislator to work, that is something that it's a little self-explanatory, but really
Mhm.
it's about showing elected officials that people with disabilities can work, they do work, and it's important. And a lot of folks don't know what that looks like. And so it's literally we help people get connected to their elected official and they shadow someone at their job for a couple hours and see, oh, th this person is providing a service. They are working, and for a lot of folks, they just don't understand or don't know that that's really a possibility. And so it's a very eye-opening experience for a lot of people. And so that's something that we're always happy to help set up because we think it's such an important piece of education, right? You can show people numbers and data all day, but at the end of it, showing someone living in their community is really the most powerful way to change someone's mind or get them to understand the issues that people face, right? Um, our youth leadership forum, definitely one of my favorite programs. It's a free week-long program for like transition-aged youth. I think we try to focus on like that 15 to 20 rather than the full 14 to 21. Um, and so about a group of 30 kids from across the kids or young adults, right, from across the state come to Madison to the Edgewood College campus, and they stay in the dorms in the summer for a week, and they do so much stuff. I mean, we take them to the Capitol. They meet their elected officials. They talk to businesses. They get pretty intense trainings, right, every single day for a week. They learn about their rights, working, really all the things that we are charged with, doing and educating people on. And the coolest thing about this is we provide some funding and staff time, but the Youth Leadership Forum has their own board. It's made up of people with disabilities, and they run all the programming. It's a very as people with disabilities, this is what's important, and we're here to support it. But a wonderful program. I can't tell you enough about it. If you have folks who are in that age range and have a disability, I would highly suggest them to apply and go through it. It's pretty life-changing experience
It
for a lot of
sounds, yeah,
people.
very, very, very empowering, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, on your website, do you have links to all of these then to learn more about them? Okay.
Yep. On our webpage, if you just go to the Get Involved
Okay,
page, it will have links to all these.
great.
Um, these last couple I can kind of breeze through. Living Well is a program that was an extra grant that we got, and it was a limited term grant, and so it's done. But we have lots of wonderful information still on our webpage. The whole point of it was looking at isolation, social connectiveness. Abuse, neglect, all of those things, and really focusing on what are the systemic issues, how can we get people more connected, things like that. So we have lots of cool resources from that project, and out of it has sprung up some other things around peer mentoring. And so while it was a limited term project, the effects of it and a lot of what we learned are continuing. So very, very cool stuff. The Disability Vote Coalition, we run this in partnership with Disability Rights Wisconsin. Once again, it's nonpartisan. We're not telling people who to vote for. It's mostly educating people on their rights and how important voting is, and we've got elections, and so we have been doing a lot of here are questions that you can ask candidates, right? Here's a way to get involved with the process, and regardless of what party they're with, how do you get them to talk about disability rights and disability issues, and make sure that's at the forefront of what they're running for. Self-determination YouTube channel. This is once again, it's by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. They're short YouTube videos. They put out one or two videos a month. We have a huge back catalog of videos. They're fun. They're very well done, and it's just whatever people want to talk about, right? And I know that's kind of broad, but it really is just we've had people talk about what it's like using their assistive technology, what people use for cares. We've had people talk about bullying. We've had people talk about social media. We did a lot during the pandemic on, we're all pretty isolated. How can you use technology to stay connected? Very cool stuff. It's linked on our website, and I would recommend anybody to just go browse it, and a lot of cool stuff on there. The Coalition on Lead Emergency, this is another project that it's no longer an official partnership, but it's something that we partnered with this Coalition on Lead Emergency, or COLE, just to work on. lead poisoning and things like that around the state. It was a wonderful partnership. There's a lot of cool stuff that happened, but like I said, once again, it's a project that we had public health dollars to do this, so it's not that we're not still involved, but it's a project that I leave on here because it was a wonderful project. So while it's done, it's still something that Coalition on Lead Emergency is still around, and they're still doing great work around preventing lead poisoning. So these these are just a couple of them. I will go through this. This is a class of our partners and policymakers in the rotunda at the Capitol. After their day at the Capitol meeting their legislators. Wonderful day, very, very cool. But I can go through this. This is a picture of two of our former board chairs at the Self-Determination Conference, just hanging out. Two of my favorite people in the world. This is a picture of the inclusive park from Oshkosh that I talked about. And they had a wonderful celebration and a grand opening of the park. Um, this is somebody who's signing up for a support decision-making agreement, right? These are just kind of pictures from all the things that I've just discussed. Kids from the Youth Leadership Forum walking around the Capitol Square.
Awesome.
And that is about it. How am I doing on time?
You're doing great. You're doing great. That was awesome. Yeah, and then here
Perfect.
you got your Facebook. I'm gonna have to join that. I'm gonna take a picture. But yeah, do you think you can share these slides too?
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to share
Okay.
it. I do
So
need to
some
update
people,
this. We're not on Twitter
sure.
anymore.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
is one thing now that I'm looking at
Okay.
this.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but we're
Yeah.
still
No.
very
No
active
rush on me. Yeah.
on Facebook and Instagram. We have a listserv, so we have a monthly newsletter. If you want to get updates on anything public policy, trainings, anything like that, sign up for our electronic communications. It's the best way to stay informed on what we've got coming up, what we're working on, and if you're looking to get more involved, that's also a wonderful way to find out, like, is there a hearing at the Capitol? Is there a way to submit public comment for something that I care about? And we try to keep
Right.
people informed on all of that.
Right. Yeah, and I know that the webinars you guys put on, the first 500 people that join, you get a link so you can watch it later, if you're not able to join at the time. So that's been really helpful. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to stop sharing your screen and we'll just
Yeah.
see if
Yeah, of
there's any
course.
questions? I have a couple of questions that came up. So one of them was yeah, about transportation funding. So that's been, I know a really hot topic in the St. Croix County right now, and they found some funding, but then to have it be sustainable. So you guys are doing research and giving information for legislatures and stuff so they can help support their communities on that.
Yeah, it's just a constant thing, whether you live in rural Wisconsin or a more metro place, like transportation is still just such an issue for so many people, especially folks with disabilities. Our legislative staff, Tammy Jackson, who does our weekly federal and state funding webinars. She has a wonderful working relation with the Department of Transportation and sits on their non-driver advisory council, right? And so very much so working with them to see what are the issues and how can, what are the solutions. I think the easy thing is more funding for programs that we know that work. It's not always an option, but we will still be here to, you know, advocate
Yeah.
for that.
Okay. And then another was from one of my clients. She is a young adult, young in my mind, probably, in her early 40s. And she was working at a workshop in paid workshop. And it was a very small amount of money, but it was so meaningful for her to get that paycheck. And now there's a state, some sort of mandate where they took away that they couldn't have those anymore. And now like, and I get what they were like, didn't want to take advantage, but it's so sad though, because like this woman was really enjoying it, and now they like watch movies and go on field trips, and she's visually impaired, and it's not meaningful for her anymore. And I just was wondering if, if there's something where they're working on seeing if that can come back someday, or is that just gone forever?
Yeah, so there's a lot of work going on this on the national level, but also statewide for sure. And it's pretty complicated because we believe in meaningful work. I think the idea of paying someone sub-minimum wage
Yeah,
is a hard thing to get around, but I think the
right.
point of whoever this person was took pride in whatever in this.
Hmm.
And so some of the things we've done around this is how can these workshops take their model and change it so that people can still get support working while not being paid less than the minimum wage, right? And so there have been some very cool providers that have changed their model into more community based because they maybe have transportation already, they have staff, they have all these ways to help people. And so we've more so been trying to promote those things, right? Like rather than just getting rid of all of these things,
Yeah,
how can we update this, make sure people are finding um, meaningful work experiences and getting paid for their efforts while being connected to the community. I think that's the thing. And it's a very complicated issue because so many people have done it for so long and it's what they know. They maybe haven't had other job experiences. And so that's our, as an organization, our overall take on it is
okay.
we've seen organizations change and do it in a way that keeps people employed and keeps them having that pride in their paycheck and doing things, but maybe in a way that's more inclusive and keeps them in their communities.
Right.
Hey,
And so some
Jeremy.
people, oh, go
Jeremy,
ahead, Tom.
this
Yeah.
is Tom. I don't know. I'm getting a lot of feedback here. I don't know why. Um, uh, my name is Tom Ritzko, and myself and my business partner built this program called Building Healthy Communities and Building Healthier America. And Kiki is our on-staff leader for it. And so this has been a very good introduction to what you do.
Hmm.
And we really appreciate the time. I have to sign off now, but want to
Okay.
thank you for spending the time with us and sharing with us what you do with your organization.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks.
coming. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye
Tom.
bye.
Yeah, no, I've learned so much, and I'm excited for the members of Building Healthier Communities to be able to learn more. I think that sometimes families uh that are have older children, maybe they've heard about you, but some of the younger families, like they need support early on, but they're just busy in the trenches, right? And then it never gets easier. I'm not suggesting that, but it just over time people find you. But I'm excited to be able to have Building Healthier Communities learn more. And I just was going to say just a little, because we've been emailing back and forth, but Building Healthier Communities, we're really trying to connect families, sharing stories, receiving support. And so families can meet other families and build that support. And I didn't know, I'm going to look into whether that it might make sense for us to join in at the self-determination conference. I saw that there you have exhibitors there, because we're
Hmm.
just trying to, the more families we can get involved, the more we can find out what they're wanting. Because I think that I think I've talked to you about that before we recorded, is like it's one thing to get all these links, but to actually hear you tell about programs. And I'm definitely going to be eventually asking you, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but eventually come back and talk about some of those programs in more detail, because I think that would be really meaningful for like the kids to watch that, the people for some of the programs that you had to be able to
Hmm.
understand it a little bit more before signing up. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Very
for
cool.
sure. Yeah, people can always reach out to me. I have a pretty good understanding of all of our programs. But if you really want to find out more, on our website, every project page has our staff
Okay,
project
that's
coordinator
true.
on
That's a
it.
good point.
And you're
Yeah.
always more than welcome to reach out to them. But also, if
Okay.
you're watching this and you somehow feel comfortable with me, call me and I'm happy to
Okay.
have a conversation. Shoot me an email. I'm always available.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'll be following up with you and then we'll get some more of the links in there, but it sounds like most of them are on your website, but I might be following up on some different speakers.
Of
All
course.
right, I'm going to stop recording.